Mel Gibson is a Hollywood legend, an Oscar winner, and an action icon. But behind the smiles and pleasantries, he's no stranger to controversies, and his fiery temper has ruined his relationship with so many people.
You are going to be fucked over at some point by people who you may have done something nice for.
Over the years, Mel Gibson has clashed with several big names in the industry, sometimes because of personal differences and other times because of his explosive behavior or controversial views.
I don't give a anymore. I'm not afraid of it, because I've had plenty.
From on-set blow-ups to long-standing grudges, these are the top 7 actors Mel Gibson couldn't stand. Try guessing. Starting with number 7, we have Winona Ryder. Winona Laura Horowitz, professionally known as Winona Ryder, is an American actress. Having come to the spotlight by playing quirky characters in the late 1980s, she achieved success with her more dramatic performances in the 1990s. She has won a Golden Globe, as well as nominations for 2 Academy Awards, a BAFTA Award, and a Grammy Award. Mel Gibson and Winona had a fallout over an on-set clash, which eventually escalated into years of public jabs, legal drama, and a near-physical altercation that could have turned explosive. The feud began in The Man Without a Face in 1993. The tension began when Gibson directed Ryder in the movie, and sources claimed he was being harsh and controlling. Ryder also clashed with his leadership style. Gibson, who was professional, allegedly mocked her acting style. The feud got a little darker when Ryder publicly accused Gibson on GQ Media in 2010 of anti-Semitism at a Hollywood party. The Jewish actress claimed that he was drunk, and the party was crowded. She was with a friend of hers, and Gibson came along smoking a cigarette. He said to her friend, "Oh, wait, am I going to get AIDS?" An issue came up about the Jewish faith. When he saw her Star of David necklace, he said she wasn't Jewish, but an oven dodger. Gibson denied the claims and said he reached out to her to confront her about the lies, but she refused to address it with him. Although this happened several years ago, Gibson still has resentments for Ryder. Moving on to number 6, we have Joe Esterhaz.
Well, the most egregious episode had to do with my 15-year-old son, Nick, who was with us in Costa Rica as Mel's guest. And Mel shared with him a graphic scenario that I could only call butchery, that he fantasized in terms of Oksana. Nick is 15 years old, and to put this kind of imagery into a 15-year-old boy's head, I think it's heinous, I think it's vile, and I think it's unforgivable.
The fallout between Gibson and Joe Esterhaz stemmed from their collaboration on the screenplay for the movie The Maccabees, which was a historical drama about the Jewish revolt against the Seleucid Empire. Esterhaz claimed Gibson sabotaged the project due to his anti-Semitic views. Gibson, on the other hand, accused Esterhaz of extortion. In a 2012 open letter to Gibson, Esterhaz asserted that Gibson's true goal was to make a film that would demonize Jews. He stated that Gibson's comments and behavior during the writing process made it clear he was not comfortable with the subject matter and the portrayal of Jews in a positive light. Gibson denied the claims, maintaining that the project fell through due to creative differences and that Esterhaz was trying to extort him. He stated that Esterhaz demanded about $7.5 million to keep quiet about the alleged private conversations.
Tell us, why is it that you've released this recording?
Well, you know, Mel publicly called me a liar. The help told their kids to leave the house and to take shelter in another house. His mother wound up really crying, and Nick took a butcher knife from the kitchen and slept with it under his pillow. And this recording shows him the way he really is.
So you were not going to release this recording, but you feel that you've been pushed into it because Mel Gibson says that you made your story up. Is that basically it?
Yes. Well, he said it was utterly fabricated. I didn't go public with this. He took his letter to the LA Times and he took it very public. And I'm not going to stand around and be called a liar.
Gibson accused Esterhaz of fabricating stories about their collaboration and making outrageous demands during negotiations. The Maccabees project was abandoned, and their fallout became public, with both of them airing their grievances through the media and court documents. The last straw that broke the camel's back was when Esterhaz alleged that Gibson exposed his 15-year-old son to graphic content in Costa Rica while they were collaborating. He had to take his son, alongside his wife, away from there. he went ahead to release voice recordings of Gibson, stating that he, Gibson, needed anger management classes. Ever since, they haven't been on good terms. On to the next. At number 5, we have Malcolm McCrory.
Had you not been directing this picture, would you have been interested in just doing it as an actor?
Oh, well, probably not, because I wasn't my first choice in the part, tended to some other people, and they couldn't do it for one reason or another. I was 4th on the list.
And so finally you said, well, what the heck, I'll do it.
Yeah. Luckily, because I didn't like the 5th guy, I had him there as a backup in case I refused,
During the production of the movie, The Man Without a Face, in 1993, Mel Gibson reportedly had a fallout with screenwriter Malcolm McCrory. Although it was a modest critical success, there were disagreements behind the scenes. McCrory was unhappy with how Gibson altered elements in the original script, especially as regards the relationship between the main character, Jason McCloud, played by Gibson, and the young boy. The initial script hinted at a deeper controversial theme, possibly including undertones of grooming or inappropriate affection, which Gibson rejected and removed. He stated that he didn't want that in the movie at all. Gibson addressed that issue, stating that he intentionally took it out of the script because he didn't want inappropriate behavior. Rather, he wanted a story about redemption and mentorship. As a result of this creative rift, Malcolm distanced himself from the final product. This marked a professional split between the two. Malcolm McCrory was not the only actor who distanced himself from Gibson. The next actor on our list betrayed Gibson before distancing himself. On number 4, we have Leonardo DiCaprio.
A lot of it goes back into history, and I've had it on the boards for a long time. So long, in fact, that people kind of do things like it for TV. So it kind of takes the steam out of it. It's not new anymore. Those things take a long time.
So which one are you referring to that has been done by TV? Is there a specific one?
Yeah, well, there's, I had this whole Viking story, and then all of a sudden it's on the History Channel, and it's okay.
I'd love to see that.
A Viking story?
Yes.
Yeah, somebody needs to see a really good one.
Yes. It doesn't have to be that. I don't think
that has that has the true horror. Yes. Okay.
That only Mel Gibson could deliver.
Well, yeah. There's nothing scarier than a bunch of those guys coming to town. It's pretty scary.
I would watch that.
Yeah. Well, me too. I want to see that. I'll see it. We will see it.
Gibson's next movie was to be an untitled film about Vikings, starring Leonardo DiCaprio in the starring role. It was to be the first time Gibson and DiCaprio had worked together. Headlines had already made their way, announcing the news. The project was scheduled to shoot in 2010 and enter post-production exactly 1 year later. Producer Graham King would say, "This would be an awe-inspiring story, created with some of the industry's finest cinematic talents. And I'm just over the moon to be making this movie with Mel, Leo, and Bill."
The Vikings, And then immediately I start thinking, man, I want to make a film about Vikings, and they only speak in Old Norse, because if they say, if they speak English all of a sudden, right, you're not buying it. But if they're speaking some guttural language, you're sort of scared by them, and it's like, that's scary to me.
Gibson was already excited about the whole idea. He said the very first idea he had about making a film was when he was 16 years old, and he wanted to make a Viking movie. When asked if DiCaprio could pull off the role of a Viking, Gibson said he'd be amazing. He's a great actor.
Hey, this is Thran. I wanted to address Mel Gibson on his Viking project. He's working on a Viking movie. He's working on it with DiCaprio. I want to address Mel Gibson as well if he gets to see this, so hello there, if you ever do get to see it. Basically, I want to say we support you. Basically, no one has ever produced a good Viking film to date. You look historically, no. They did The Vikings with Ernest Borgnine and Kirk Douglas. Very, very good movie.
DiCaprio would also tell MTV that he always wanted to do a Viking movie. He was a big history buff, and he didn't think there was any great Viking movie ever made, and he would love to see Gibson's version of that. In July 2010, an incident in Gibson's life made the front page news around the world. American entertainment and gossip magazines published excerpts from a series of secretly taped phone calls between Gibson and his ex-girlfriend Oksana Grigorieva, leaked by an unknown source. It was followed by a legal battle, and what could best be termed a nervous breakdown by Gibson. In the tape, Gibson used an offensive racist term. He ranted and spoke in a profane way that did not portray him in a positive light. As the story spread, Leonardo DiCaprio distanced himself from Gibson and severed all ties with himself and Gibson, as well as canceled all collaborations. When asked if he was still attached to Gibson, he replied, "Not a chance." He didn't want to risk his reputation by being associated with Gibson. It was a betrayal to Gibson, and he has never seen Leonardo DiCaprio in the same light ever since, and they haven't collaborated on any movie since then. On number 3, we have Tom Hardy.
Did he talk about any one of your films in particular? I always notice when young actors...
Well, he was already cast in that one, and he just wanted to check in. And it was, I guess maybe he was like, is it okay? I was like, fine, it's for sure, it's fine. Have a ball, knock yourself out.
Tom Hardy starred in the 4th installment of the movie Mad Max and played the character Max Rockatansky. Before his acclaimed performance in the 2015 George Miller-helmed Endeavor, the role was initially portrayed by Mel Gibson in the first 3 films. At the time of Mad Max Fury Road's release, Gibson was too old to play George Miller's new version of Max, so he gave his blessings to Hardy. The previous character iteration created high expectations among audiences and a set standard that Hardy had to meet or exceed. This posed a challenge for the actor. Tom Hardy initially felt the weight of having to live up to the legacy Mel Gibson had already established. This also contributed to the much-discussed feud between the actor and his co-star, Charlize Theron.
Mad Max is synonymous with Mel Gibson, the character, so I thought it was the right thing to go and meet him if he wanted to. And we had lunch, and I made him a bracelet as well, actually.
Oh, did you?
Did you a bracelet? Yeah. I thought I would hand something over, and just touch base, because it just felt like the right thing to do, really. It was very pleasant.
I wish I was there. I wish I was there. It would be a wonderful thing to see.
While filming the 2015 movie, an on-set argument between the 2 Hollywood figures erupted, and it was not only recounted by the crew members present, but also by the 2 stars who were involved. When Hardy met Gibson to discuss the iconic role in the series, Gibson was bored. "He was bored with me," Hardy said. He said, "All right, buddy, good luck with that." He also added that he made a bracelet for Gibson, and they talked for hours. After that, Gibson attested to the fact that he found someone crazier than he is.
Yeah, we met, and I sat down and we had something to eat, and I wanted to, I guess, meet him and touch base, and see if it was okay to play the role that he made iconic, and he was cool about that, I don't think he was that interested in me, and that's cool, and he wished me luck, and then told my agents that they may have found somebody more insane than he was.
But behind the scenes, Gibson was reportedly critical of the film's direction and Hardy's portrayal. Though Hardy praised Gibson publicly, their relationship never seemed warm. Gibson allegedly felt the reboot overshadowed his original legacy. Speaking of the on-set feud, the next actor on number 2 is Robert De Niro.
For years.
I'm tired of calling him names. He just can't be anywhere near.
Robert De Niro and Mel Gibson are 2 actors who have made names for themselves in the industry, although Mel Gibson has had his fair share of issues. De Niro, on the other hand, has been lashed for calling out Donald Trump severely. They disagreed during the making of Edge Darkness, a comeback by Mel Gibson in 2010, 4 years after he derailed his career with some infamous comments made while he was arrested for drinking and driving. One of Edge of Darkness's most important roles, though, is that of the mysterious rogue CIA operative Darius Jedburgh. In the miniseries, he was played by Cape Fear's Joe Don Baker, and Campbell ironically cast someone else from that 1991 Martin Scorsese remake in his new version of the story, Robert De Niro. Filming began in August 2008, but only a week later, De Niro was on a plane home. Sometimes things don't work out. A spokesperson for De Niro told Variety on September 4th, it's called creative differences. Nothing else was ever publicly said about why De Niro left the production so quickly, but that didn't stop rumors from spreading that he had fallen out with Gibson. In this scenario, it was alleged that De Niro took umbrage with Gibson's anti-Semitic comments in 2006, which hit particularly close to home because his mother is Jewish. Mel Gibson still did not understand the reason De Niro left the movie, but ever since, their relationship has not remained the same. At the top of our list is an actor anyone would expect. It's none other than George Clooney.
There's a fly on my head.
Yeah, right. Just talking.
There's a green suitcase slithering up my leg at the moment. I forgot my line.
Yeah, right.
I don't get that.
Right.
So you're now.
Their fallout is a typical example of a clash of personal values and talent. While they were never close, the tension between them exploded into public view in early 2010 when Clooney criticized Gibson and everything he stood for. In a 2011 interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Clooney was asked about fallen stars in Hollywood. And he didn't hold back. He said, "I don't have a lot of tolerance for people who hurt other people the way Mel has. He's had so many chances. I think he's done. I do." That was the biggest shade in Hollywood at the time.
I don't give a anymore. I'm not afraid of it.
And now, it's just time for me to say, I'm tough. Because what does not kill you makes you stronger.
Gibson didn't take kindly to Clooney's words. In a private conversation later leaked to the press, Gibson allegedly said, "Who the f*** does he think he is?" He also accused Clooney of grandstanding and trying to act like the moral compass of Hollywood without ever understanding the full story behind his controversies. They didn't fix things up, as Gibson saw it as a blow to his face. It was a professional freeze. They did not collaborate on any movie, nor did they reconcile publicly. Even with his issues, there are actors Mel Gibson loves, and there are some others he can't stand. These are the top 7 actors he hates so much. Don't forget to like, share, and hit the subscribe button for more updates.